The accident should have ended his career. A 900-pound police bike bucked beneath him, hurled him like scrap metal onto a California highway, and left him staring at 2 useless wrists and a set of splintered ribs. Yet even flat on his back, Erik Estrada kept hearing the director bark, "We need that grin, Ponch." The network would air the episode, ratings would soar, and America would keep believing the myth of the carefree motorcycle cop with the perfect teeth. What the cameras never showed was the painkiller haze, the bills piling up at his mother's walk-up back in East Harlem, or the terror that the promise he'd made long ago, "If I'm not a star by 30, I'll trade Hollywood for the NYPD," was seconds from crashing down around him. He would survive the crash, just as he'd survived a childhood of busted locks and burnt spoon shadows, just as he'd outsmiled the Cold War with co-star Larry Wilcox and the tabloid tempest of 2 imploding marriages. But the deepest bruise no X-ray could see, the sense that every role was borrowed time. When producers warned, "You won the battle, kid, but you'll lose the war. Nobody remembers a faded TV cop," Estrada swallowed hard and swore they were wrong. 4 decades later, he is still proving it, morphing from primetime poster boy to Spanish language sensation, from reserve patrolman in Middle America graveyard shifts to undercover hunter of online predators, from viral TikTok cameo to children's book author who ends every school visit reminding kids that a badge is just a promise to protect. He's 76 now, silver-haired but still restless, and in 2025, he's warning the world that AI deepfakes can destroy lives if we let them, because he's met monsters who already tried. The story you're about to hear isn't the sun-splashed fantasy of chips. It's the jagged route a real man rode, sometimes straight into a brick wall, to turn make-believe heroics into something painfully, brilliantly authentic. And it starts in a 2-room apartment above a gutted bodega, where a little boy learned that smiles are shields. Erik Estrada came screaming into the world on March 16, 1949, in East Harlem, a neighborhood that smelled of fresh pan dulce in the morning and gunpowder at night. The streets were a kaleidoscope of Puerto Rican bomba drums, storefront radios blasting doo-wop, and rival crews tagging lampposts with razor-carved initials. By age 2, he was fatherless. By 10, he was grandfatherless. By 16, he could rattle off which stairwells hid switchblades and which bodegas cashed food stamps at half face value. Carmen Estrada, barely 5 feet tall, worked triple shifts, coat check at the Copacabana until 3 a.m., fry cook helper at an all-night diner until dawn, and cleaning offices on Madison Avenue after sunrise. She stapled prayer cards to the fridge beside overdue Con Edison bills and wrote Dignidad in lipstick on the bathroom mirror so her kids saw it before brushing their teeth. On Sundays, she marched Erik and his siblings to St. Cecilia's, exhausted, but insisting that faith was the one inheritance the city couldn't repossess. Erik's lone male role model was his grandfather, a cigar-scented former merchant sailor who taught him to box using rolled-up socks for gloves. The man died of a heart seizure when Erik was 10, cracking the last pillar of security in the tiny apartment. Grief detonated silently. Carmen had no time for tears, and Erik learned early to translate pain into ambition. The most scarring lesson arrived one humid July afternoon. Young Erik barged into the bathroom and froze. His estranged father, Jose, hunched over the sink, leather belt cinched on his forearm, flame licking a spoon. The air reeked of burnt sugar and vinegar. Jose's glassy eyes flicked up, shame, fury, and hollow relief, all swirling together. In that instant, Erik etched a line only he could see. "Whatever I become, it will never be this." For the rest of his life, anti-drug campaigns weren't abstract charity, they were revenge on a demon he'd smelled firsthand. A sliver of light slipped in when Detective Pete Panius, Carmen's brief boyfriend, started stopping by for late coffee. He was straight-backed, badge polished to a mirror, gun clipped with casual authority. Panos let Erik leaf through crime scene Polaroids, explaining every detail without sugarcoating. He talked ballistics, motive, and the paperwork nobody sees on TV. The images were gruesome, but to a boy who'd already peeked behind darker curtains, they felt honest, almost empowering. Duty, Panos said, meant running toward the problem. Erik pocketed that wisdom the way other kids pocketed baseball cards. School was an exercise in controlled chaos. He dodged gangs recruiting outside PS, 109, took chorus only to sit next to the prettiest soprano and snuck into the roof-access stairwell to practice monologues he overheard on late-night radio dramas. Teachers marked him restless but magnetic. By 16, he was leading hallway talent shows, half improv comedy, half Motown karaoke, charging 25 cents admission and sending the cash home so Carmen could replace the flickering stove. On his 17th birthday, Erik scribbled 3 goals on notebook paper. 1. Pay mom's rent in full. 2. Buy grandpa a real headstone. 3. Wear a badge, on camera or for real. He folded the note into the lining of his jacket and stepped onto a path that would demand every ounce of hustle the barrio had baked into him. Manhattan's American Musical and Dramatic Academy sat 8 subway stops and a tax bracket away from East Harlem. Tuition was $38 a week, an impossible fortune, yet the brochure promised unlimited rehearsals and 2 cafeteria meals a day. Erik sold his record collection, borrowed busboy aprons from a cousin, and started clocking 18-hour days. Diner security guard from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., laundry folder until noon, line reader for advanced directing students in the afternoon. Sleep happened in subway seats between gigs. He'd joined the campus drama club to flirt with a brunette named Sylvia, but an acting coach named Rafe Holbrook spotted raw voltage. Estrada's eyes flashed genuine danger one beat and puppy dog warmth the next. Holbrook forced him to train diction with a cork between his teeth, drill stage movement until blisters peeled, and refine the Harlem strut into camera-ready swagger. At night, Erik rehearsed scenes under Queensboro Bridge floodlights, reciting Shakespeare in Spanglish to bemused dock workers. He taped marker lines across the alley pavement, teaching himself to hit a mark before he even owned a headshot. One freezing February, after 86 failed auditions, he landed a non-union cornstarch blood roll in an industrial safety film. Pay $50, cash. He wired $45 to Carmen and thumbtacked the receipt beside Dignidad. A year later came the pivotal audition for The Cross and the Switchblade. Casting expected a tame read. Erik arrived in torn sneakers, drew a plastic switchblade, and spat improvised barrio slang at an imaginary rival. The room went silent. Legend says Pat Boone leaned to the director and whispered, "Hire him before he robs us." Nicky Cruz became Estrada's breakout, but also his pigeonhole. Across the early 70s, he stacked resume lines at breakneck pace. He was a doomed bomber pilot in Midway, a gang enforcer in Trackdown, a hot-headed rookie in The New Centurions. He learned to keep index cards of every crew member's name because craft service gossip traveled faster than agents' phone calls. He borrowed camera manuals to study lens lengths and figured out which angles sharpened his cheekbones for magazine spreads. Despite check-to-check living, he mailed Carmen $50 a week and saved bus fare by trading meal vouchers for rides with stagehands. But a deadline loomed, his 30th birthday. If he wasn't made, he'd slide a real badge across a real desk. No camera, no applause, just the echo of subway tunnels and the smell of gun oil. When NBC floated an untitled motorcycle cop series in '76, Estrada felt the universe holding open the last door on the corridor. Estrada's motorcycle skills were non-existent. Producers wanted the Latino foil to squeaky clean Officer John Baker, but insurance underwriters wanted proof their new hire wouldn't shred himself filming episode 1. So Erik trained dawn to dusk at the CHP Academy. Emergency braking, counter-steering, skid recovery. He kissed asphalt twice, cracked a helmet once, and still showed up next morning grinning. By week 8, he could thread a 700-pound Kawasaki through traffic cones like a slalom skier. Episode 1 aired September 15, 1977. Ratings spiked 27% by week 3. Viewers taped posters to bedroom walls. Ponch became shorthand for any charming risk-taker. Fan letters spilled off studio mail carts, forcing NBC to lease a secondary P.O. box. Kraft Foods launched Poncho Nachos for a limited Halloween promo, sold out in 2 days. But the centrifugal force of stardom strained every spoke on the wheel. Larry Wilcox, ex-Marine, disciplined Midwestern, bristled as covers shifted from Baker and Poncherello to Estrada solo close-ups. Crew insiders boycotted craft services because Wilcox wouldn't sit within 6 tables of Estrada. Producers juggled egos by rewriting dialogue mid-shoot, turning Baker into the straight man so Ponch could land punchlines. On-set injuries escalated. One February chase required a jump over a parked Cadillac. The ramp buckled. Estrada's bike veered, slammed into a light pole, and somersaulted. Both wrists snapped. An intern quietly filmed him wincing through a retake 48 hours later, casts hidden under uniform sleeves. Orthopedic surgeons warned permanent nerve damage. Publicists issued minor sprain statements. Erik signed hospital discharge papers with his non-dominant hand and cracked jokes for Access Hollywood. During hiatus, he headlined USO tours, meeting troops who jury-rig satellite dishes to catch taped CHiPs reruns. Latin American teenagers mailed cassette tapes begging him to record birthday shoutouts. Mattel pitched an action figure that flexed at the waist. Merchandising execs argued whether kids preferred the bike or the smile. Execs picked both, bundled them, and watched Christmas sales eclipse expectations by 140%. All the while, Erik sensed a trap. For every magazine cover, another casting director updated sticky notes. Estrada equals Ponch, nothing else. His favorite hobby became pranking studio pages by pretending to be his own long-lost cousin, taking fake messages and sneaking them into Wilcox's dressing room. Even jokes felt like trench warfare with an invisible future. CHiPs wrapped July 17, 1983. Monday morning, the Poncherello phone melted to silence. Estrada invested in a Beverly Crest fixer-upper, then watched interest rates skyrocket and residual checks dwindle. He auditioned for Broadway revivals, landed True West off-Broadway, poured himself into Sam Shepard's razor-edged dialogue, and earned glowing reviews from The Village Voice. Tourists, however, wanted Ponch, not psychological sibling rivalry. Ticket sales flatlined. The play folded in 6 weeks. Financial freefall collided with romantic misfires. His Las Vegas elopement to flight attendant Joyce Miller imploded at 8 months. Divorce court ruled gag orders. Tabloids filled the void with rumor slurry, infidelity, money squabbles, hidden injuries. The next marriage, to songwriter Peggy Rowe, lasted 4 years and gifted him 2 sons, Anthony and Brandon, before capsizing under schedule conflicts and Estrada's relentless hustle. Child support and alimony siphoned most of his CHiPs fortune. By 1987, he was selling memorabilia at fan fairs, sandwiched between Dallas side characters and WWF wrestlers. He smiled for Polaroids, signed lunchboxes he'd never licensed, and pocketed $10 bills that evaporated into mortgage arrears. Depression hovered like a streetlight hum. Panic attacks triggered at grocery checkouts when credit card slips bounced. Friends say he kept TV static on overnight because silence felt like failure. Casting agents pitched him villain roles, cartel bosses, crooked cops, or soft-core fitness videos trading on his reputation for tight uniforms. He accepted a few, quietly donated half the paycheck to Carmen, and studied Spanish on cassette tapes during long freeway drives. The NYPD age limit was long gone, but the badge itch never faded. When a Televisa producer proposed a Spanish soap, Erik answered in broken Spanglish, "Let's talk numbers." He didn't yet know the role would resurrect him, but he recognized lifelines when they dangled. Dos Mujeres, Un Camino began as a modest 100-episode melodrama about a truck driver torn between 2 loves. Televisa executives wanted an American star to hook cross-border viewers. Mexican unions grumbled about importing talent. Estrada promised to outwork everyone. He hired 3 dialect coaches on rotating shifts. Mornings focused on verb conjugations, afternoons on norteño slang, and nights on throat relaxation to roll R's without shredding vocal cords. Filming launched in Tijuana truck depots thick with diesel soot. Estrada bunked in a modest 2-bedroom flat near crew quarters instead of the 5-star hotel. Part humility, part immersion. He shared carne asada plates with key grips, hit weekend birthday parties for lighting tech's kids, and borrowed a semi to practice double clutching so his gear shifts looked authentic on screen. Ratings detonated. By week 10, Nielsen trackers showed 70% of Mexican households tuned in. Viewership bled into Central America, the Philippines, Indonesia. Doll manufacturers shipped Johnny figurines faster than stores could shelve them. Pirated VHS tapes undercut legitimate sales and still made a killing. Televisa extended the run to 229 episodes, redirecting ad budgets from soccer matches to soap opera commercial breaks. Estrada banked millions, yes, but the deeper payoff was cultural. He finally conversed with Carmen in rapid-fire Spanish, canceled the headstone debt for Grandpa, and started funding after-school acting programs in East Harlem. Mexican reporters pressed about Ponch. Estrada countered with Johnny's passion, describing how long-haul drivers symbolize the economic arteries of the Americas. Fans sent him rosaries, truck stop caps, and hand-embroidered pillows reading Nuestro Héroe Latin. Away from set, he spent weeks shadowing real truckers, sleeping in sleeper cabs, showering at border gas stations, eating 7-peso tortas at 3 a.m. He learned CB radio slang, helped change blown tires at kilometer marker 244, and discovered he preferred the roar of diesel to Hollywood gossip. When the finale aired July 1st, 1994, Mexico City threw street parties. Estrada slipped away to a small chapel, lit candles for every East Harlem kid who thought dreams expired at each borough line. With newfound clout, he inked a deal with Univision, cut Spanish PSA spots urging youth away from gangs, and filmed cameos in Miami-based sitcoms. Yet one itch still burned: the badge. Fame was sweet, but purpose, real, tangible purpose, was still a half-promise waiting to be fulfilled. 2006's Armed and Famous looked like novelty TV, celebrities earning reserve officer stripes in Muncie, Indiana. But Estrada approached it like the Academy Awards. He pored over Indiana penal codes, aced firearms qualifications, and memorized Radio 10 codes until dispatchers mistook him for a seasoned deputy. When the series wrapped, the other celebrities boarded private flights to LA. Estrada asked the Muncie chief which shifts needed coverage. Graveyard, it turned out, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Drunk driver, prime time. Between traffic stops, he drafted proposals for community outreach, bilingual school talks on cyberbullying, neighborhood cookouts with live DJs spinning salsa to soften the perception of officers as outsiders. Local baristas teased that Ponch was ticketing them for expired meters. Estrada replied by buying their coffee and teaching them to fix tire chains in blizzards. Then came Bedford County, Virginia. Sheriff Mike Brown's ICAC task force gathered evidence against internet predators, but funding gaps left them short-handed. Estrada visited for a charity photo op, viewed the forensic files, and lost sleep for 3 nights straight. He phoned Brown at 4 a.m. "If you'll have me, I'll move here." Training was brutal. He studied digital forensics, TOR network navigation, chat room lingo, and psychology of grooming. He practiced typing like a 13-year-old, malformed grammar, emoji overkill, time-stamped Snapseed selfies. He created backstories meticulously, favorite boy band, older cousin in college, soccer practice on Tuesdays. The first time a predator agreed to meet Kimmy, Estrada coordinated undercover vans, rehearsed arrest scripts, and prayed the suspect didn't bolt into oncoming traffic. The caller went clean. Victim impact statements poured in months later, girls who felt safer knowing someone hunted the hunters. Estrada cycled through undercover personas: punk rock teen, shy bookworm, gamer girl, each successful sting, piling courtroom testimonies onto his file. Off-duty, he hit the gym at dawn, nursed joints with ice baths, and called Carmen nightly, speaking softly so his own daughter wouldn't wake. The emotional toll was savage. Nightmares, bursts of rage at grocery store creeps who stared too long at kids. Guilt that arresting one monster didn't heal the scars of survivors. He saw therapists, anchored his sanity in faith, and leaned on his wife Nanette, who left encouraging post-its on his patrol laptop. "Keep shining, my guardian." Evenings off found him hosting Divine Renovation, swinging hammers for families blindsided by medical bills. Viewers joked about Ponch swapping handcuffs for hammers, but Estrada shrugged. Whether it's drywall or danger, some walls need breaking. Estrada's third act is part legend, part lesson in adaptation. A cameo in 2002's Van Wilder reintroduced him to millennials who barely knew terrestrial TV. He riffed lines about party patrols, winked at Ryan Reynolds, and parlayed the buzz into voiceover gigs on C-Lab 2021, Santo Bugido, and nostalgic episodes of Scooby-Doo. Comic-Cons booked him for retro panels where he'd ride a stationary bike on stage, rev the throttle, and cue the Chips theme to standing ovations. In 2019, he entered TikTok on a dare from his daughter Francesca, reenacting Ponch catchphrases and racking 3 million likes in 48 hours. Teen comment threads proclaimed him Latino Keanu energy. He used the viral wave to push PSAs, cyber safety, opioid awareness, respect for first responders. Then AI deepfakes surfaced. Scammers stitched Estrada's face onto crypto pump and dump pitches. One clip depicted Erik Estrada Financial Academy, promising 1,000% returns. Estrada fired cease and desist, went on Fox Digital, and warned that synthetic media would ruin reputations the way heroin ruins lives. First slowly, then all at once. He advocated for digital watermark legislation and toured high schools, showing side-by-side comparisons of real versus fake footage. The George Lopez feud remained tabloid catnip. Lopez told podcast hosts that teenage George once begged for an autograph outside a church carnival and got snubbed. Estrada counters that he was mob-escorted past multiple barricades and never saw the kid. In 2023, Lopez riffed jokes about Ponch delivering Uber Eats. Estrada tweeted, "Better to deliver meals than deliver kidney punches to your marriage. Look it up." The subtweet went viral. Both sides milked merch sales, Lopez on t-shirts, Estrada on commemorative challenge coins benefiting ICAC funding. Yet reconciliation surprised everyone. Terrificon 2024 organizers coaxed Wilcox and Estrada onto the same Q&A stage. The former rivals traded barbs about hair volume products, admitted they'd each auctioned off original CHiPs uniforms for charity, and hugged it out, sort of. They announced a RetroCon 2025 reunion ride, promising to rev replica Kawasaki's down the Atlantic City boardwalk for charity miles. Ticket pre-sales crashed the website in 45 minutes. Estrada's side hustles now include narrating Spanish audiobooks for visually impaired kids, mentoring young Latino actors on how to read contracts before signatures, and lobbying Congress for stronger predator sentencing guidelines. He's eyeing a memoir sequel titled Badges, Bikes, and Bites, detailing how analog heroes adapt to digital villains. When asked if retirement looms, he flashes the same weaponized smile. Retirement from what? Breathing? Ask 10 viewers what Erik Estrada means, and you'll get 10 different snapshots. The golden boy on a cafe racer flashing traffic cop warnings. The heartthrob telenovela trucker belting norteño karaoke. The reserve deputy burning midnight oil in Midwest patrol cars. The online sting operator who spent birthdays pretending to be a frightened teen so real teens could stay safe. The Silver Fox author signing bedtime stories about empathy and courage. The grinning grand marshal of small-town parades who still tips cash to the marching band drumline. He didn't conquer every demon. Typecasting still stalks his IMDb. Marriage number 3 tested his patience before finding its groove. Childhood scars resurface when he scrolls through police evidence. But between each reinvention lies a through line stronger than studio contracts. Estrada refuses to let other people define what a hero is. A director can demand a smile. A gossip site can mock a divorce. A comedian can trash talk on late night. An algorithm can fake his voice. But none of them can order him to quit suiting up when someone vulnerable needs a shield. So the next time a nostalgia channel replays CHiPs and you catch that megawatt grin reflecting freeway sunlight, remember the off-screen road. The Harlem kid who dodged heroin fumes, the struggling actor who kept every promise to his mother, the undercover cop who stared into darkness until it blinked first. Maybe Ponch was the role. Maybe Estrada was the blueprint. Maybe the hero is whichever version reminds us that valor is less about kickstarts and wheelies than about showing up, season after season, shift after shift, long after the cameras go dark. If that leaves you wondering what kind of legends we need in 2025, silver screen icons or street-level guardians, scroll down, sound off, and decide. Because the only war Erik Estrada ever truly cared about was the one where ordinary people refused to disappear.